Hey everyone, it's time again to recap the latest news from the solar industry, compiled by the American Solar Energy Society. I'm Jay Warmke with SolarPVTraining.com, and this is what's happening in the wonderful world of solar for the week of November 17th. Well, according to new data from the Global Solar Council, as reported by Reuters, the global installed capacity of solar has for the first time exceeded 2 terawatts of generating capacity. More than 2/3 of this capacity has been installed in just the last 5 years. Now, solar continues to exceed previous expectations. In fact, IRENA, the International Renewable Energy Agency, made their projections, and this report shows it has exceeded those projections by about 30%. And the move towards the transition to solar energy just continues to accelerate. In fact, at last year's United Nations Climate Change Conference in Dubai, 118 different countries have made pledges that will amount to about 11 terawatts of solar capacity by 2030. Now, this would be a 5-fold increase of what we have today in just 6 years. The United States Department of Agriculture, or the USDA, has announced its latest rounds of investments in clean energy that's managed through the REAP program, the Rural Energy for America program, totaling an additional $256 million in loans and grants that'll be distributed to more than 40 states. Now, most of these projects are funded through the Inflation Reduction Act, and since the start of the Biden administration, the USDA has invested more than $2.7 billion through the REAP program, funding more than 9,900 different installation projects. Now, REAP enables agricultural producers and small rural businesses to expand the use of energy through wind, solar, geothermal, small hydro, as well as making energy efficiency improvements to their businesses. Now, REAP grants will fund up to 50% of the cost of projects for those that qualify. Commercial real estate and solar professionals have traditionally used a 2% escalation clause when they're trying to figure out how much their utilities, their electric utilities, are going to cost in coming years. Now they've study by the United States Energy Information Administration, or the EIA, have found that that may have been a bit of an underestimate. When they looked at all of the price increases from 2001 through 2023, they found that it actually should be closer to about 2.5% rather than the traditional 2%. Now, top states have seen their prices escalate even higher, averaging about 2.7% increase for commercial and around 3.7% increase in electric rates for industrial. Utilities claim that these increases are required to pay for improvements to the transmission as well as distribution lines to withstand many of the more serious weather and fire hazards that are occurring as a result of climate change. They're also preparing to implement a number of electrification rules and regulations that have come down from states as well as the federal government. And they're also saying these improvements, the cost increases, are due to trying to improve the grid for better energy reliability. If utilities integrated rooftop solar, backup batteries, and electric vehicles, and smart thermostats and appliances into their operations, according to the U.S. Department of Energy, they would save 10 to 20% off peak load demand and actually save their customers roughly about $10 billion each year. Now, by integrating these virtual power plants, as they're known, or VPPs, the result could make tens of billions of dollars cheaper to transition away from fossil fuels to the renewable energy economy. However, many state legislators, as well as state regulators, have actually stepped in and put in place rules and regulations that make this more difficult, if not illegal, to implement virtual power plant programs. A group of solar advocates and companies led by Solar United Neighbors have released a model of utility and regulatory practices or procedures called Connected Solutions. Now, many of these principles contained in this model are not new. In fact, nearly half of the US states have already launched at least one virtual power plant program. But to date, with few exceptions, these state by state efforts are struggling to mature beyond initial experimentational phase. Even successful efforts have been undermined by state regulators in ways that increase the complexity of the programs and reduce the compensation to those participating households. Now, Connected Solutions has been designed to incorporate what has worked in past efforts. Specifically, they're citing 4 different key principles for these to observe. They should be open to everyone who wishes to participate. The technology should be agnostic or not product specific. They should have flexible participation. In other words, the utility should not control the entire process. And they should ensure fair export compensation for all the power put back onto the grid. Now, initially, Solar United Neighbors is targeting Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York, and Wisconsin in these model tariff proceedings. And in the past year, 2 states, Colorado and Maryland, have actually passed bills mandating virtual power plant programs. And that's the news from the solar industry for this week. We'll see you next week.